Callan and the Rio Grande, or in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles. It is business. Big business.
Welcome to the Girl Get Visible podcast. This show talks about traffic, marketing, and business. This is for the retailers, the coaches, the course creators, and service providers who want to build a legacy, build authority, and build a brand that people admire. The visible girls who are not afraid to get out of the sea of sameness and to find her tribe. Business owners ready to go from consumers to creators and build an online presence where your tribe can find you. We talk about topics like SEO, content marketing, and business systems, but that's only because our visible girls are ready to do business like a business. Stop hiding in the crowd and get visible.
Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible. Girl, get visible.
Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to today's episode. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, hopefully a lot of fun that we'll all experience, and I'm doing it live. So if you're listening to the podcast, you can go over to YouTube and you'll see that I did it there. If you're in my group, you probably already saw this. So I'm doing it live in a couple of places just because, hey, I like the adventure of it all. So today's episode is going to be about leveraging SEO in your existing business. And I wanted to talk about this because a lot of people, a lot of my audience already has a business, and sometimes people, I think, get the impression that SEO is only at the beginning, or SEO is something that you need like a brand new website and you can't ever go back and that kind of thing. And really there's a lot of things you can do even if you already have an existing business, if you already have an existing website, if you've been in business for years, if you just want to start implementing different things to level up and like start getting bits and pieces in it. The one thing I always say I love about SEO, and if you guys have ever seen my full presentation on SEO, you've probably seen one of the slides where I have a little GIF that's like laying bricks. And I always love that it's, I actually use it for two things. One, I say you don't have to do it all because I think it's like a little octopus with 8 arms, but also that SEO is brick by brick, right? And even if you only do one part or 2 parts or 3 parts, you get to start seeing results just like you do when you're building a wall, like you brick by brick, you start seeing bricks as soon as you start laying them and you start seeing results. But of course, you want to do most of it so you can actually like cover a wall or cover whatever you want. But either way, my little brick by brick analogy for SEO. And so today I wanted to talk about that on the podcast. And like I said, I'm also doing it live. So on the podcast, the show, the channel, wherever you're viewing this at. And the reason why I'm doing this live, and definitely why I have video, is that I wanted to throw a little monkey wrench in there for even my own self, right? So many of you guys know that in addition to Girl Get Visible, I am the founder of SEO Assist, and I got a whole software that helps you do a lot of the different work of SEO, especially the content creation, like writing SEO specific blogs, finding topics that people are searching for, all of those different things. So I created this whole tool, and I'm constantly testing and playing. We're constantly growing it. We got a little bit more people than just me now. Constantly growing it and doing different things. And one of the newest flows that we've put in that I'm really excited about and I love, specifically for podcasters and YouTubers, and bloggers can use it too, but for those who interview people, is something called the interview questions flow. So if you already have access to the tool, if you head on over into the podcast resources section, you'll see this now as one of the new flows that you can play with, right? So it's the interview question flow. And the idea of this interview question flow is that you would use it when you have a guest coming on, because we bring on guests and you may want 1 or 2 things that you want to ask them, but then you're like, oh, I need some questions, right? And so now you can go into this flow, give it a little bit of information about your guest and the goal of the show, and then you can use that to interview your audience, interview your upcoming guests, and it's stuff that, of course, your audience is looking for. So I said, why don't I interview myself, right? That would be fun. These are the things that are fun and exciting to me, right? So I was like, yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be a nice little experiment. I can see, test out the tool. I can show you guys the tool, but to get it out there and talk about what I want to talk about and make sure I'm answering questions. Because when I talk and I do my shows, especially to do solo shows, I'm going off of kind of what I think, right? let me see what really is out there in terms of data wise, because we do everything based on data, right? So let me see what out there is data wise and see what you guys want to know. So like I said, I'm using a tool. I already did the flow, so I'm going to show you guys via screenshots what we did. And then I am going to, since I am live, I will look over at the comments and questions and stuff. But for the most part, we got a lot of the questions out there. So I'm going to show you guys what it looks like, what I did exactly. And here's one of the screenshots. And so again, if you are listening to this, I'm going to walk through it if you're listening to this via audio. But if you want to see what I'm pointing to right now, you want to come on over to one of the YouTube channel or see it in the, my growth map group, right? So first thing you do with the flow is you answer a couple of questions. So this question I cut off the top of it. It's like, what is the interview about? Implement SEO in your business. And then who's my audience, entrepreneurs and info products. And then down here, it says, what are your goals that you want the interview to help the audience with? Starting SEO techniques in their existing, and it cut off a little bit business, right? So those are the only information I gave it. Those 3 little questions I answered, and it gave me 15 questions, well, total of 25 questions, because it gives you 15 general questions, 5 controversial questions, and 5 basic questions. And so in this episode, am going to read and answer the question. So pretend I'm the host hosting me, right? So pretend there's 2 me's. Funny enough, I just saw, I actually got the wrong one up, right? We're going to get to that one, but this one's the one I'll start with, right? I actually went to go see Spider-Man this weekend, and I love the whole Marvel thing. And I'm one of those like old school, used to read comic books back in the day type of people. So back in the day. But there's a scene, and there's actually even a meme that does this too, but this is a funny scene that they took it probably from the meme. And they rhyme. But there's a scene where it's like catch Spider-Man, and they're in a headquarters, like Spider-Man headquarters. I won't tell the whole movie. They're at Spider-Man headquarters, and it says catch Spider-Man, and everybody points at each other, right? Because everybody's a Spider-Man. That is today's episode. I am the host and I am the guest. And well, maybe SEO Assist is the host, right? Well, I'm co-hosting with SEO Assist because that's who came up with the questions, right? And then I, as the guest, am of course going to answer myself, right? So this is, and I see somebody already laughing in the comments, so I'm glad everybody else is getting it too, right? So I showed you guys what I gave SEO Assist in order to get these questions. And for those who are just now chiming in and looking in on this, I am using what we call the interview questions flow that is located in the podcaster resources of the apps. And I've barely looked at these, right? So y'all gonna have to trust me on this one. I really just made screenshots from my phone and then uploaded them in here. I looked at 1 or 2 just to make sure I knew what I was talking about. And then I am going to read up. I'm not going to go through all 25 questions because that would be a long episode. But if you see a question that you want me to answer, feel free, because you guys can see it on the screen, right? Feel free to say, Akilah, answer that one, right? Or even after, if you're looking at it another time, throw it in the comments. I can do a whole nother episode. I can even do a second episode interviewing me. If y'all like my Spider-Man, right? Or Spider Girl, Spider Woman, Spider Me, right? If y'all like my Spider Me, then you can definitely just tell me you like this, or tell me you want me to do more of these and interview my damn self, right? So first question, I'm not gonna say, well, the first question is, what is SEO and why it's important for businesses? I think you guys know what SEO is because you're here, right? But why it's important for businesses, of course, it's to get traffic, it's to gain authority, it's to gain credibility. But I'm going to go a step further, since we're talking about existing businesses. How it can help existing businesses is, if you've been in business a couple of years and maybe enough people don't know about you, right? Maybe you're only getting traffic from social and you want to expand, SEO is going to help you with that. If you are, I was just talking to a client this morning, we're talking about a speaker audience. So if you're a speaker, podcast, or stuff like that, and you want to come up on more things, SEO is going to help you with that. If you are wondering, why am I never picked for like those top 50 lists for this and top this and that, I'm doing this episode in the middle of the year, but this is the time of year when you might want to get on those end of the year kind of like roundups that people do, and different holidays, and top for this and top for that. A lot of times they do searches, right? They do SEO, they do Google searches for different things. SEO will help with that. If you got a audience or a group and they ask a lot of different questions and you don't you're tired of typing the same thing over and over and over again, you can make a blog post, and guess what? You can share that with them, and guess what? SEO will help with that. And so there's a lot of different ways that even if you've been in business for years and years and years, SEO is going to help with that. So it's really important, not just in the beginning of the business, but throughout the business, because you're pretty much with SEO building like a content library of things that you know and that you can share and that people are going to find. And like as you grow, your content is growing. Like it's really, and I'm not just saying it because I do it because of this. I say that all the time in these episodes, but it's really a dope thing for throughout your business. Whenever you get started, like it's one of those never too late to start kind of things, right? So whenever you get started, it is still really, really good thing for you to have focus on stuff like that. All right, next question. I got to keep myself on time. This is what happens when you host yourself. Is that you don't want to go off on other topics because you are not the host. The other you is, right? So, or SEO assist and me, right? So, okay, next one. How can business identify the keywords that should be targeting for SEO? So, another good question, and I'm going to talk about this from the stance of existing businesses, right? So, not that I have a completely different answer for new businesses, but it's going to be a slight difference, right? Because I know existing businesses is what we were focusing, and they have some of these problems and some of these questions. So, keywords for existing businesses. Normally, if you've ever heard me talk about keywords before, I'm telling you to go and do research in Facebook groups. I'm telling you to go look at Amazon reviews. I'm telling you all these ways to get brand spanking new keywords because it's a newer business and you may not have a bunch of stuff already, right? If you're an existing business, I'm going to tell you something different. You likely, especially if you're an existing business that's going in the right track. And when I say the right track, meaning the way that you want to go, meaning there is no one right track, right? You, as long as you're getting the kind of clients that you want, you're getting the kind of projects that you want, you're not getting, everyone's going to get little objections, but you're not getting so many objections that you're not making any profit. So if you're in that right direction, then you're going to want to look at keywords the way I'm about to mention, right? So if you're going in the right direction, you're going to want to look at keywords based on what are some of the things you're already sharing that people really resonate with. And that could be on any one of these platforms, right? So talking about keywords. If I talk about keywords and every time I talk about keywords, someone like really, I get a lot of engagement, which funny enough, we just put a video out that I did months ago, maybe even a year ago. We put out that video last week on my page and it got so many people like liking it, loving the information, comments on it. And it was really a good thing. So if I see that I'm already putting out something that's a really good thing, that's probably means that's a good keyword for my business. Now, I'm not just going to run with that keyword, not because it's not good, but because there might be more out there. So if you guys are familiar with the RACE method where we talk about rounding up keywords, doing the analysis, doing the connection to your business, and then doing the engagement. This is kind of putting the E, which I can't even erase. I don't know, right? Although that doesn't spell erase, but you guys know what I mean. This is putting the E before the R, right? So I've already engaged, so I'm going to pick out some keywords from there, but I'm now going to go to that A and do the analysis. And I'm going to look at, what's getting good search volume, what doesn't have a lot of competition. And I might even find some synonyms for words that I've been using that have better numbers. So an example is when I created online boutique stores. I've told this story probably 50 million times, but you'll hear it one more. All right. But when I started online boutique stores, I knew I wanted to gear my site towards online retailers, but I was calling them online retailers. I knew e-commerce, like I knew words like that, online retail, online store, e-commerce. Those are kind of the words everybody uses when they're talking about online shopping, right? And so I started out with those words. So I was already talking kind of about that, engaging kind of about that and stuff like that, because I was a web designer. So that's what I talked about. I worked with online retailers. So it all made sense, right? It all made sense. And so when I did the research, I found that online boutique was an untapped gold mine, right? Yes, it still talked about the things I was talking about. So it had that connection part, right? And it had, and it was something that I knew my current audience liked. So I wasn't going to lose them in the process of it all, right? And it was something that did not have a lot of competition because most people were using those other words that were a lot more, not to say popular, but just a lot more well known, right? So it was like, for those who know, like some of the tools like the Longtail Pro, it was in the 20s, right? It was a gold mine. It was in the 20s, and I think it's getting like somewhere in the 4 figures, 5 figures of traffic. So like 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, something like that, right? And that's how we got online boutique source, right? No, I was just woke up one morning and, I said I was going to do online boutiques. No. The data told me, right? And that's how I did it there. So if you're an existing business, while I like people who do the new keyword research and stuff like that, that does not mean, how they say, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, does not mean you have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. So that is one of the things, like, if I'm an existing business, that's how I'm going to do my keyword research. Still going to do the data checks, right? Because that's important, but I'm going to look at more of my existing instead of just looking for everything brand spanking new. If you are a newer business, go back to some of my other stuff where I talk about keywords, because you should be doing that, right? Because you may not have. And that's actually why we do look at Facebook groups, other people's Facebook groups. But if you have one of your own, you can look at that too. But that's why we do that Facebook groups and looking at reviews and stuff like that, because we don't have anything else to look at. When you're an existing business, you've already got some things to look at, and you've already got an audience and sales and stuff like that. So like I said, instead of throwing out the baby with the bathwater, we come back and we, look at some of these things. I see some people in the chat. You guys know I'm live recording a podcast episode, so I'm not going to do a lot of chit chatting, but hey guys, thank you for being here. All right. So our next question, when we are interviewing ourselves, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Ooh, I love number 4. Can you explain, and see how it sounds just like it's me interviewing me? Can you explain the importance of link building in SEO? If I was doing this with a TikTok, I'd have had glasses, like interview, no glasses. Actually, I do have my glasses, y'all. So we gotta keep this whole party going when I'm interviewing. This is the interview me, right? All right. So can you explain the importance of link building in SEO? And y'all are really gonna laugh at me because these are for distance. I can't really read, but we're so well in them. So importance of link building in SEO. Me answering me, right? The importance of link building in SEO is that I call it like the secret sauce. So, and there's been some debates and it's funny, I just heard another SEO explain this, and I wish I remembered the name because I do like to quote my sources, but I will say that somebody else said this, right? And I love the way they explained it. But SEO link building, over the years, people have said, and Google has even said, oh, we're giving less quality, less weight to the people doing link building and what we call backlinks. So link building, backlinks are the same thing, right? So we're giving less weight to some of those things. They've said some other kind of information and verbiage around the whole, how important is link building. But so they said they were giving less weight, but then if you dig down into the reason why they're giving less weight is not because they're giving less weight overall, but because they're looking at other things above it. And so while if you think of it as a list, like that might have been the second or third most important thing, that might be the fifth or the sixth, just only because they're looking at other things. So I say that to say, and that person said the same thing to say, link building is still important, right? And with all else other things considered, they're looking at your link building. So that's one of the reasons why it's important, because they're looking at it, right? It's also important for link building. And I didn't really go into what backlinks are. Let me go back to that. Sorry, me, right? Back to what exactly they are. So link building is building links from another person's website to your website. I think we have a whole episode on that. If we do, I will make sure we put it in the show notes. But it's from somebody else's website linking to your website. And so with someone else's website linking to your website, then that's how Google knows you're a valuable resource. And so you think about it over time and over sites and, thousands and thousands of links, which is what you want. You want, not in this kind of stage of business, you probably want hundreds, but you want something. You want a lot, like not one or two. Don't say I got a link and stop doing it, right? You're going to want to get more links than that. But the reason why that's important is because that shows when all things considered. So if your site looked like somebody else's site, y'all got the same information on it, pictures are different, but the same kind of content on it, it's going to say, well, this one is the one who everybody's referring to. This one's better than the one that people aren't referring to, right? So that's why it's important. Also, for an existing business, so going back to my existing business folks, it's not just important for the search engines, but also important for your credibility, right? Because the more people are linking to you, when people see a resource linked on another site, they automatically give it like in their head, they automatically are like, oh, this must be a reputable source, right? So you're already a reputable resource because somebody found you via another site that they were on and they were listening to and that they trusted that site. And now they're linking to you. You're this, how they got the information, right? Which is why I like to cite my sources, right? You're the reason why they got the information. So your information must be pretty dope too. So your link building is important for SEO. And like we already talked about how Google's kind of back and forth with that, but more important for your credibility and your authority, right? I just did the ATM summit and standing for authority, traffic, and monetization. Link building falls under both because now, again, people are seeing you as the resource. One of the ways I like link building is by being a podcast guest, even guesting for myself, although it won't be a backlink, right? I can't backlink myself just yet, but I'm working on it, right? But even though it won't be a backlink, the fact of the authority of being on a show and you're the resource or somebody's listening to, people are listening to you, now they click on your link and they head back to your site, right? So it does so many things for your credibility, your authority, getting your name out there. You want to know how people figure out who should be on these lists? The people that rise to the top. These are the things that help you rise to the top, right? So link building is definitely important. All right. So next question. I'm going to squint and interview me. Actually, I probably should read like this. All right. So question number 6, and I'm going to switch this up just a tiny bit. Question number 6 is, what role does content play in SEO and how can business optimize their content for search engine? I'm going to say, what role does current content, and when I say current content, I'm talking like if you're doing social media, if you're doing TikTok, y'all know I'm in love with TikTok these days, right? But if you're doing content other places, how do you bring that back into your business, right? So I say that to say, when you're using these interview questions, you might tweak them a little, but it gave me that idea that I did not have before, right? So interview me. So one of the ways, or one of the roles of your current content in your SEO is going back to almost what I answered the first question. One, it's going to give you ideas of what else to create, right? It's going to help you with what else to create because you're not starting from scratch. You already got people who ask you questions. You already got content out there. So your existing content is already going to give you ideas of, A, these are the things that people commented when I put something out. These are the things that did well when I put something out. And so you don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's not because you were doing social all these years and now you want to start doing SEO does not mean you forget what you learned doing social. It's also to mean you forget what you learned about your audience. I had a client about a year and a half, 2 years ago when Clubhouse started getting big. So whatever that was, right? And before we were working together, she was going after one audience, like demographic wise, like she thought one age group, one type of person, blah, blah, blah. And then she started getting into some rooms and started talking and conversing and learning about her audience more. And she found out they were a whole other age group, right? A whole other thing was going on. So when it gets now to time for that content, you don't say, I'm going to go back to the old people who I thought. Now that you know and you see and you have more of an idea, you use that to help inform the content that you're going to create. So that is one of the biggest ways that your current social media content and things can help with your SEO content. So that is one. The other, it gives you your social media, especially if you're doing it right. And when I say doing it right, meaning you're sticking on brand, on message, right? If your messaging is consistent, you've probably got a few posts that you put them together and you've got a blog post. I'm going to give y'all a secret that most likely by the time this episode comes out, it'll already be there. But you guys who are live are hearing this first, that we are working on a flow in SEO Assist that you can just copy in your last 3, 4, 5 posts. We're going to say, like, as long as they're on the same topic or same subject matter, and it's going to create a blog post for them for you from that. I can't even talk. Right? So that is my little secret that is coming. And I'm really excited about that because I know that's going to help so many people, especially people who've been doing business for years, because you've been most likely prioritizing that content on social. And I get it. That's what everybody's doing. We doing it, right? And it's easy. Do a little post. I could do that while I'm sitting out on the couch, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you did that today, you did that tomorrow, and you did that Wednesday, you did a blog post. And some of these posts, let me tell you, I have a love-hate with these prolific blog posts, or I'm going to messages posts, whatever, that they put on social media, because some of them are long as hell. And if you're one of my clients, you probably had me come to your page at one more times and say, that should be a blog post. That is my lightly shady way of saying, gets to blogging, copy this over onto your website. Because it probably should be. We're creating a lot of really, really good stuff, and we are throwing it out into the blue ether or the red, whatever color Instagram is, that ether. We're throwing it out into the ethers that barely will show it to people, don't get you any visibility or any traction, and you should be taking that content and moving it over. So my answer to number 6, right, is that one of the things you should be doing. So you're using social content to help you figure out what you should be doing, what's going to work well, and what your audience likes, and sometimes who your audience is. And B, you should be using that content to actually create and take that stuff, put it together, and use it to create content. Work smarter, not harder, right? And then the other way that the third thing that I tell my members, so we practice content first strategy, where we create the long form. So like I'll create this podcast episode, and then my team will take it and they will turn that into my social. Another way you can do it, right? So if you are now thinking, what am I going to continue to do with my content? You create the big thing and then you break it up. We already have that flow in SEO Assist. I need to show you guys that. So we already have a flow where you could copy the whole blog post and it's going to give you what your social content can be. But I want you guys to start thinking that way. If I'm creating, where else am I putting this? How else am I repurposing this, right? Repurpose, reuse, recycle. Those are some of the things we always talk about in content creation, right? So interview me. Let me put my glasses back on. But let me look before I put my glasses on. I really cannot see distance, and I'm sure this close in reading these. I need my readers. Wrong glasses. I don't want to talk about local. Oh, this is a good one. Number 9, right? Because I think this is important, especially if you're an existing business. There's no excuse for not tracking metrics and analytics and things like that. I know when you're just starting, you're like, oh, there's no numbers to really track. If you've had a website for more than 2 months and you had Google Analytics installed, right? And if you did not, install it now, right? Then you've got some analytics that you should be paying attention to, even if they're not great. I tell people, I think I got an episode on this too. Even if they're not great in the beginning, you still should be looking at them so you can figure out how to make them great. They're not going to get great if you ignore them, right? Doesn't happen that way. Like you know how they say the tide rises all ships? Well, we know the tide's always going to come in. Traffic is not always going to come in. My mic is this way. So be clear. You're going to have to do something. So put on my interview me glasses now. Interview me. Number 9, how can businesses track their SEO success and measure their ROI? All right. The answer, even though I pre-answered it, that you should be doing this, right? The 2 tools that Google gives us for free. Main 2 tools. You want Search Console and you want Google Analytics, right? We're going to be talking more. I talked about actually both here on the show. But we're going to talk more about Google Analytics because they're making a big change. They've already made the change, but it really is going to slam us on the 1st of July. So I'll be talking about that. I'm not going to lie. I'm telling my community first, and that's why you guys have not heard it on the show just yet, but it's coming, right? So how can you track them? You use those tools. Real simple. What are you looking for? Really, that's what the question should be. What are you looking for when you track them? You want to see who's coming to your site, what they're visiting on your site, the where they're coming from, so you know how your marketing efforts are. Now, and I caveat that because especially for my existing businesses, I hear people say this all the time. Most of my traffic comes from Facebook, and so I'm going to stick with Facebook because that's where most of my traffic comes from. But they neglect to mention the other side of that story is that most of my content is on Facebook. And so most of my traffic comes from Facebook because that's the only place I'm paying attention to. And replace Facebook with whatever you want. It could be TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram. Where you spend the most efforts is most likely going to be where most of your traffic comes from. Most of your clients come from. That does not mean other ways won't work. Right. And don't try one way one time. I wrote a blog post and nobody came. Well, you wrote one blog post. Give it, I would say, at least 6 months, 6 to 8, maybe 6 to 9 months. Like I tell my clients sometimes, date it, don't marry it, right? Date the niche, don't marry the niche. But give it 6 to 8, 6 to 9 months of really doing it, right? So if you're going to say, I'm going to lean into blogging, create a blog once a week, right? If you're going to say, I'm going to go strong and hard on my YouTube, which is not a bad idea, create one at least once a week, maybe 2 per week. If you're going to do TikTok, I'm going to tell you now, TikTok wants a video a day. At least. You could take off maybe Saturday, but at least a video a day, right? And then after that 6 months, 6 to 9 months, then start assessing where you're getting the most traffic. Way too often I hear people tell me that this is where they get the most traffic, and so they leave. They're like, that's their excuse for not doing other things. And I'm just like, well, that's where you get the most traffic because that's where you spend your most time. That's just it, right? That's why most people find their significant others either at school when they're younger, like college, like either it's college, work, or church, because that's where they spend their time, right? Not because that's the only place to go find significant others, but because that's where clubs, if that's what you do, right? Probably where, yeah, that's where, unless they where I found them, but I spent a lot of time in clubs. Either way, long story. Make sure you are giving things a real try. That's what I'm going to say to end that. So that was some of the general questions. I should be back to interview me. Now I'm going to show you guys some of the other questions. So like I said, the flow gives you 15 general questions. So you guys saw the interview questions, and I think that was actually a pretty good interview. And even the ones that I didn't answer, I'm like, those are pretty good questions. Y'all tell me in the comments, in the chats, in the groups, if y'all liked some of these questions that me is asking me, right? And then it also gives you 10 other segments of questions. And I'm going to show you guys that now. All right. So these, you guys see the screenshot. You guys know how these little how these cameras go. It gives you 5 other questions, right? One being controversial questions. So these are the questions, and some are more controversial than others. I mean, I've read them. I even read one of these and was like, that's not that controversial, but it's one of those like great debate kind of questions. Some niche is going to have more controversy than others. SEO is not that controversial. I'm going to just say it. So they're not as controversial, but they're the little deeper questions. And then it gives you 5 basic questions, right? So I call these the eggs, milk, and butter. If I was preparing for my interview, like with someone else, I probably would have done the basics first. Like, what does SEO stand for? That is super basic. If you don't know, you here for search engine optimization. Yeah. But I know when I'm interviewing somebody who does not have an audience that knows what SEO is, that might actually be a question, right? And so that's where the basic questions are. So you might want to open up with some of the warm up basic questions, go into the regular, and then get down and dirty in those controversial questions. So me interviewing me, my little Spider Woman thing going on here, Spider Me. Right? All right. So, I like number 3. Number 3, is it worth investing in SEO for businesses in a highly competitive industry? All right, my answer. I actually like me better in the glasses. I probably should have switched and had interview me being the glasses and not, right? So my answer is, I think it's even more important in a highly competitive niche, right? Highly competitive industry niche, however you're going to say it, right? And some of the reasons why I think that SEO can help you to rise above, right? And to get out of the fray. I was just talking to someone earlier who does websites and branding and design, right? And that could be a really big commodity space because it's like a lot of people believe that they do website branding and design, or a lot of people believe that they can do it themselves. And then there's people on Fiverr. Like it's just such a commodity that it's almost, and this is from somebody who used to do, professional web design. Probably one of the reasons why I stopped because I didn't like the commodity feeling, but that's another whole nother story. But it could be really, really, it can feel really crowded, right? But, but, and even SEO can feel really crowded, but there are different things you can do that your content can help you do the most that will bring you out of that commodity space, right? I tell people all the time when people are searching, when they're searching for an answer to a problem or an answer to questions, whatever they have, they generally search based on their unique, specific issue that they're experiencing, right? So I got another client that works with nonprofits, right? And I tell them all the time, when people are searching, they're looking for, like, even for web design. So put my two clients together, right? Even for web design, they're going to maybe look for a web designer, but they're going to look like a web designer who does nonprofits. And that's going to wow them. They're going to click on the stuff for web design for nonprofits, right? If it's somebody, like I just said, I don't want to talk about local SEO because I don't really do local SEO. But if you're a local business, you're going to click on the thing of somebody who says they can help you get found locally in your town, right? So when you start creating content that is more specific to the audience that you have and getting really niche, you take yourself out of that commodity crowded space and you go into a space where there's less competition and the audience is more primed because you are an exact fit for them, right? So SEO can help you immensely if you're in a crowd. Like you almost need, I don't know how people are making it out here in crowded markets without doing SEO. Right? Because that means you're just, because you think about even on a Facebook post, even if it's long as all heck, people are only reading the first couple of lines. You can't get deep in that. But when you're in a crowded market, you need to get deep. You need to start talking to people at their deeper levels because that's where they're going to find that you are for them. Right. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. If you don't, in the comments, again, you guys can add some questions to this. Right. And if you are listening on the show at a later date, you can definitely throw some in the comments and questions. But I think that's a great question, but B, I think it's a good question because especially talking to more like experienced existing businesses. And if you're struggling with getting more people to have less objections, getting more people to the yes, those are some of the ways that are going to help by being more specific about who you help, how you help them, and creating content around them. Right. One of the things, like when we do our coaching sessions, we always seem to give a whole bunch of content ideas. And I'm not going to tell you guys exact ideas I gave her, but those ideas were all about, oh, you want this audience? Okay, here are the things. Right. And I happen to be part of that audience she's going after. But here are the things that I know I would always be looking for. Here are the things that I know I need to use branding in that most people aren't even going to talk about because they're too busy talking about it from this higher level. You're going to want to get more specific, right? And that's how you want your content. And that's how SEO is going to help you with that. So let me see, about 30 minutes in. Got to time my own interview. Let me do one more controversial question and then I'll see if there's any basic questions for us. I really want to answer the last one, but I feel like I did. So the last one is, should businesses prioritize SEO over other markets? Actually, I will answer that. Should businesses prioritize SEO over other marketing strategies? And for those who are just joining, these questions were generated by the interview questions flow in SEO Assist, and I am interviewing me. Right? And so this is Interview Me, and you will hear Guest Me in a minute. Right? So should businesses prioritize SEO over other marketing strategies? Let me be Guest Me, right? Absolutely. And I say that and I laugh because I'm funny. But I say that in a flippant kind of way because as I've answered in every single one of the other previous questions, not only have I told you how SEO is going to help or how SEO is going to work, but how you start encompassing it into the marketing mix of your business. If you're working in a marketing department or study marketing, they're not just one team, right? There's a social person, there's a content blogging person who's usually doing the SEO, there's a graphics person, there's all these different people. And when you start looking at different, depending on how much media the company actually does, there might even be a video department, right? A video editing, content scripting, like they do all that kind of stuff department. But they have a full marketing mix, right? A good team, a good marketing team, business, whatever, has a marketing mix. You're not just relying on any one particular platform, any one particular strategy, any one particular things. You may lean into one more than the other, especially depending on what you do. Like if I'm a doctor's office, maybe I'm going to lean into more local and sponsoring local teams and things like that because I want more people in my area. Then I'm going to lean into my social team, but you're going to have a little bit of everything. And unfortunately, I know because some of my marketing folks are like, that's not how that goes. Unfortunately, I know there are companies that will hire one person expecting to do them all. I know. I am not negating that sometimes that marketing mix gets mixed up all into one person, right? But it is still a marketing mix, right? Even if it's one person who's handling those different entities, I'm praying y'all get help. But it is still a mix, right? It's still a mix of the strategy. And so while I say yes, you prioritize SEO, I'm not saying no, you don't do the other things. I'm also going to say so going back to my content first, you use, and that's why I say prioritize SEO, because you use the SEO to help make the other content. If you trickle down instead of trying to build it up, you're going to be able to do this a lot faster, right? You're going to be able to do it with less stress to the team or even less people on the team because you're taking the big things and breaking them up into little things. You're taking those topics and re-talking about them and kind of resurging them. What I say before, reuse, recycle. You're doing all that stuff in all these other different places. And so SEO has a multiple parts to it. It's the technical, so you got a good site going on, right? It's the research, so you got to know what to talk about and when to talk about it. And then it's the creation, right? So you're creating the things. SEO is already handling those two pieces for you. You don't have to worry about technical because it's probably on another platform. So they got that covered, right? And you don't have to, sorry, I hit the mic. I don't know if that's actually, you guys can hear that, but you don't have to worry about you got the analysis of it. So you're doing the research, you know what the topics are. All of that is part of SEO, right? So now you got the list of topics and then you're doing the creation. Now that's the thing you do all the different platforms. And if you do the creation right, you do one big thing and then you break that down into little things. And so even the creation time is cut up. So I don't know if y'all getting what I'm saying, but SEO, I say prioritize not because I do SEO, but the reason why I do SEO is because I know it's the basis for everything, right? And so if you start there with that basis for everything that's done a lot of the big chunks, then it makes everything else you're doing so much easier. You don't have to do your SEO research for topics, and then, which technically if you use SEO Assist, it's going to do it for you, but that's a whole nother story. But you don't have to do your SEO research for topics and then go do it again for what I need on Facebook and then go do it again for what I need on Instagram. At most, you're tweaking it, like what hashtags, right? Because Instagram likes hashtags. Or if you're on TikTok, I do a lot of the cut up videos, but I might go and actually talk about something, but I'm talking about something based on something I already talked about, right? That's already been shared in a larger piece of content. And I'm just pulling out that one little bit, right? So it just makes the whole world turn a lot easier, the whole marketing world. So if you're in a business and you're thinking, this marketing piece is stressing me out. It's so funny because so many of us aren't marketers or marketing businesses, but we spend most of our time marketing. Like I know chefs that spend most of their time marketing, right? So if you're thinking it's not all the things I wanted to get into, SEO is going to help you. SEO is going to bring down some of that, again, the multiple doing the rework, the stress of it all. And it also opens the door for you to bring up a team. Because if you can get that first piece of content, this is why my team is able to help me the way they are enabled to help me. And I will promise you, I'm not the easiest to help, but I love them. I know they're listening. They're going to listen to this. I love them. I do. All right. But the reason why they're able to help me is because I create so much and I've already done the bigger chunks of things, right? So now I can have somebody come in and help me do the smaller chunks of things. So that was a really good question. I'm gonna do one basic before we wrap up. I don't see any questions in the chat, so that's cool. I will again be checking back and answering questions if you have them, or doing another episode. Tell me how y'all like me interviewing me. Because the good thing, if you guys going back to, I'm just gonna point of personal privilege here. If you look at what I gave SEO Assist to come up with these questions, you could do this for almost every single topic, right? You could do some of that, like the research we talked about from things that you shared, and say, what else do people want to know about email engagement, right? What else do people want to know about this? Like you could literally come in here. This I told it what the podcast episode was going to be about. So implement SEO in your business. I told it who my audience is, entrepreneurs with info products. And then I told it what was the goal of the interview. What do I want people to learn at the end of the interview? And this one was start doing SEO techniques in their existing, and it cut it off a business, right? So if you can literally go in there and start continuously giving it questions, giving it these 3 pieces of thing, and change, what it's about. You could change what the goal is, and it's going to give you new questions. 25 new questions. I've only done less than 10 of them, I think. I'm not keeping count, right? But 25 different questions. So if you're like, these are some good questions, know that Interview Me was using my interview co-host SEO Assist to come up with some of those. So back to, and I'm going to end off with one basic question. All right, so I'm going to talk about this one. So this is kind of basic, but I want to answer because I know when we say optimize, it seems very general, and it's not, right? There's a lot of levels to optimization. But number 4 is, why is it important for businesses to optimize their websites for search engines? All right. So I'm going to dig into the technical part of it, which I don't dig into much when I'm doing my general training. So I'm glad you asked this question. Me, right? So optimizing is optimizing your content, which is what we talk about a lot. Like, so getting these topics, putting it out there, writing it correctly, all the things that SEO can help you do. SEO Assist can help you do, right? That's the optimizing your content. But there's also the optimizing your platform. I talked a little bit about, different platforms and being on how you got to do they handle the technical part. But there is the technical of the type of optimizations that happen on your actual site. So there's how your site functions. So like the speed of the traffic, of the speed of like how things load onto your site is one of the things that you want to make sure is optimized. You want to make sure it's loading as fast as possible, not a long delay. I had another client, literally clicked the button and we were in middle of conversation before the page loaded. That's not good. That's not good at all, right? For SEO, right? Other things like even where like different tags. So do you have alt tags? Do you have alt image tags? Do you have meta descriptions? All that other type of stuff is part of the optimization of your site. Making sure that your navigation is really well, and not just the navigation. Like, don't put 50 billion links. You want to think of your navigation in a couple of different ways. How many ways can the search engines get to this, but also how many ways can users? Some people are going to use the menu. Some people are going to use the sidebar. Some people are going to be down in the footer. Some people are going to read it in the content, right? Making sure that your navigation, there aren't any pages that have nothing linking to it unless it's a landing page and you want that. But your blog post should be linked to something, all kinds of things that are around. I'm losing track of my thoughts here. All kinds of things that are around the optimization of your website, like the technical, how does that thing run? How does it do? I prefer WordPress. You guys have heard me say it 50 billion times, not only because I know it really well, but because it was built with some of this optimization in mind, right? You can load it down with plugins, but if you go like what it is and only have a few plugins, you're going to do it really good, right? Speed wise. So you're not going to have any problems with the speed of it all. It also has the ability for you to, like, if for some reason you don't have, like it is slow or there's a problem, you can take things away. If you're on something like a Wix, if it's slow, it's slow. right? The most you can do is reduce your video and reduce your picture size, but that's probably always the least of the problem, right? So you're going to have those problems on some of the other platforms that don't allow you that technical way to get into it. One of the other things is schema markup, right? I don't think I've done an episode on that. Probably need to do a whole episode on that. If you have, depending on your different types of sites, you might have different types of content, right? So podcasts versus articles versus recipes. And there's something called schema, right? Which is a whole other section of SEO. And that markup language, right? Certain platforms, certain people aren't even using it. So you're not optimized for that. So what that does is tell Google a little bit more about what they include and what's important on this page, right? So if it's a recipe, it's going to say, here's where all the ingredients are. Here's where the instructions are. Here's where there's storytelling. That kind of thing happens in your schema markup, right? If it's an author's page, here's the author. Here's some of the things that they wrote. Here's why they're important. That might not even be on all your pages, but you know how when you look at a blog and it's like, this person wrote it. Who's this person? That's literally what people think. Who's this person, right? And so you want to help Google along with, the schema. This is telling you these kind of things. So while schema at the level you guys are, right? Most of my audience. So I'm going to say this with a big caveat. It doesn't make or break at the levels you are because you likely don't have the content on there yet to really need even the schema markup. But when you do, more of my established existing businesses, you need to be looking at these things. And that is where some of the optimization, that's why the optimization is important, and where some of the optimization helps you with the search engines is that you start pulling some of these other levers kind of behind the scenes on the site and stuff like that. Most of my audience has a content problem. And that's why you guys hear me talk about content problems a lot, right? Because that's what the problem is that most of my audience, but not to say that other people don't need it, not even to say my audience doesn't need it, which is why we're talking about it now. But I recognize that. And that's like how I just told you guys about knowing your audience and what to give them. I know what my audience needs. But does not mean they don't need some of the technical optimization. It is still important. It is still something you should do. Generally, if you're on a good platform, a lot of that stuff is handled and taken care of. But if you're not, or if you're having problems, this is where you might want to dig into. I got good content. I know I said this. I got the backlinks. I got that. Why am I still not? It's probably something going on with your technical optimization of your site. So that is the end of that question. And I guess Interview Me should close this out, right? When you hosting yourself, you got to remember which self should be talking, right? So those are some of the questions I went through, probably at least with 10 of the questions that came out of 25. I could literally bring myself back for a part 2 of this episode just based on the things that came out of SEO Assist. And so I wanted to try this little fun experiment, test out the tool, show you guys the tool, and get some of your questions answered. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what y'all think of these questions. Did you have any of these questions? Would you have asked that question? Right? And if you have problems with interviewing people, or you want more help or support with interviewing people and what to ask, definitely head on over to SEO Assist. We've got a free try me, so that'll help you with topic ideas that you can see kind of just how it kind of works. It's pretty much Q&A. I showed you guys. You give it these answers. You answer these questions, right? It gives you the questions. You give it these answers, 3 things I told it. And it gave me all of this, right? And a little bit more because I couldn't get it all in one screenshot, right? And it gave me all of this. That's how easy this tool is for you guys to use. And like I said, if you want to try it, head over to seoassist.com/try me. If you want to see a full demo of it, right? And have me or my team walk you through it, go to seoassist.com/demo. If you just want to buy it, go to seoassist.com/pricing. Right? We are doing all the things. And I'll give you guys a secret. Get on the list. Some things happen when you're on our list. All right. So I will talk to you guys later. I hope you enjoyed this interview. I'm going to thank my guest, me, right, for being me and helping me and answering the really great questions for all of us. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.
It is business. Big business.
Thanks for listening to the Girl Get Visible podcast. I hope you've learned a lot about how to get your brand out of the sea of sameness and start to get visible. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show, and let us know how much you enjoyed it and what you've learned.